All right, Hannah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As Suzanne mentioned, we're going to be focusing on utilizing free resources on the ALEX website to support implementation of the digital literacy and computer science standards. We appreciate you taking the time out of your summer to attend our session and attend this conference. It's been wonderful so far, and we are really glad that you're in our session today. We do welcome collaboration, so Suzanne will be monitoring the chat box, so feel free to hop in there with any questions you have. Also, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, that is fine as well. I am going to go ahead and stop my video just so I don't have any sort of bandwidth issues. To tell you a little bit about myself, my background is in elementary education. I was a sixth grade teacher for 8 years in Dothan City Schools. The past 3 years, I have served as an instructional coach, going into other teachers' classrooms and supporting them in implementing best practices with a focus on third grade reading due to that Literacy Act. During all of that time, I did work with the ALEX program, writing resources and reviewing resources and doing different sorts of presentations. And as of July 1st, I've joined the ALEX team full-time, so I'm coming to you today as the ALEX project instructor. And a fun fact about myself, I've got my little icon there with the lady holding up her diploma. I'll be graduating with my MBA next Friday, so I'm going to be throwing that graduation hat off and grasping that diploma with a big smile on my face in a couple of weeks. Before we get into ALEX, I would like to kind of gauge everyone's current knowledge about ALEX. So I'm going to ask that you either unmute or you can go to the chat box and let us know how familiar are you with ALEX. Have you ever heard of it before? Do you use the resources on ALEX currently? So before I get into what it is, I'm just curious to see what your current experience and background knowledge is.
While everyone is doing that, Hannah, can you share your session in the chat, please? Or tell me where to find it on the drive and I will share it.
Yes. Are you talking about this actual slideshow?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I did email it to you, but I can also put a share link in the chat box at the end if that would be helpful.
If you have emailed it to me, I will locate it and post it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, good. So I've seen, it looks like a lot of people have used it. Some people are not very familiar. Some people are super familiar, and thank you for the congratulations, everybody. So if you are someone who has a lot of experience with ALEX, I hope that you will still find today's session very valuable. We might give you some new ideas that you'll be able to use. Some people said, I've sort of used it, but not really. And those people, if that's you, that's actually wonderful because I know I'll be able to share with you some valuable information today. So we've kind of got all ranges of experience with ALEX. So I'm going to share with you what ALEX is. The Alabama Learning Exchange includes classroom resources, learning activities, lessons, and unit plans that are all connected by the Alabama standards to promote deeper learning competencies essential for student success in college, careers, and our global society. Now that is the vision, mission statement, that's posted on our website and all of our official materials. But to me, what ALEX is when I was a first-year teacher, this was 11 years ago, super excited to get my new job, go in to meet with the principal, and I get told, you're teaching 7 classes, 4 classes of science, 3 classes of reading. In each of those classes, you are going to have 33, 34 kids. And I'm thinking, oh, that's a lot of little 6th grade students in one classroom. And then the next thing he tells me is I put your 30 student textbooks for science and the 30 student textbooks for reading, they're all on the back counter. I said, but I thought you said I was going to have 33 to 34 students. Oh, you are, but we've only got 30 textbooks, so they're going to have to share. So that was my first year teaching experience where I did not necessarily have all the resources I needed to teach the standards to my students. Not only did I not have all the resources, I didn't necessarily have all the experience at that point to teach those standards either. So if you are kind of in that same boat, or maybe you have been in the past, you don't have all the resources you need, ALEX is a wonderful place you can go to get those engaging standards-based activities and and lesson plans to use in your classroom. That's not the only time you can use it. Even if you have a wonderful brand new curriculum, like maybe you're getting a brand new ELA curriculum this year. That happened in my current district. If that is you and you're getting all of this stuff, the student editions, the teacher's editions, all the supplemental material, Alex can still serve as a resource for you if you teach a lesson and it didn't quite hit how you expected. You feel like the students need a little bit more, or they need to be taught in a little bit of a different way. Alex is another place you can go to find some supplemental student material. Another time that you can use Alex are those kind of quote unquote off times that we have during our school year. Like maybe you don't get the whole week of Thanksgiving off and you still have to come to school on Monday and Tuesday. And you know about half the kids aren't going to be there. So I don't want to jump into an entirely new unit and have half of the students miss it. But you also know, well, we can't just show videos and do coloring sheets for 2 days. We've got to do something engaging. And we also still need to teach the standards. So Alex is another place that you can go to. So I would just encourage all educators, rather than going to Teachers Pay Teachers and paying your money for resources, check out the Alex website first, because every resource you'll find on Alex is free. And I will give you a link later, so you don't have to go try to search for it now. I have a QR code later that I'll show you. But rather than going to Teachers Pay Teachers and paying money for this resources, or just doing some sort of web search and hoping you find something that's correlated to Alabama standards, Alex offers you all of these resources that are already correlated to our state standards, and everything is free. All of these resources are high quality. They're written by Alabama educators, and then they also go through a 2-tier review process before they're published. And the reviewers are Alabama educators. So all of these resources are things that you can definitely use in your classroom, and a lot of them have been written by Alabama educators just like yourself. One of the things that was mentioned in that introductory session that I also want to mention here is that in the K-6 grade range, the grade band, we do have to teach computer science. However, I'm guessing a lot of districts are not going to have a separate curriculum to teach those computer science standards. So Alex is going to be a place where you can go to find resources to integrate with your current subject area, whatever that may be, to make sure that we still teach digital literacy in computer science in our elementary classrooms. So I'll show you some examples of those types of resources later as well. So Alex offers 3 main types of resources, and what I'm talking about now does apply to the digital literacy and computer science standards, but it also applies to any other content area. So even if you are a 4th grade ELA teacher, or you're a kindergarten teacher that teaches every subject, what I'm about to explain now applies to every other content area and every other course of study. So you can also go find reading resources on Alex, or science, or social studies. But there are 3 main types of resources that are on the Alex website, and I will show you examples of all these in a moment. Classroom resources are instructional tools that are aligned to the Alabama course of study to support student achievement. So this is going to be a link to a digital tool or resource that is aligned to the standards. So it's not much teacher directions. It's more of, here's a wonderful resource that you can use in your classroom, and here's the standard that it is associated with. Classroom resources can take many different forms. They can be interactives or games that the students might use on their digital devices. They might be informational material for students or for teachers. It could be a lesson plan or a unit plan that was created by someone other than an Alex author, so a lesson plan or a unit plan on a different website. It could be a learning activity. It could be an audio or video, maybe like a video clip. It could be an assessment or a worksheet. So classroom resources can take a variety of different forms, but there's not much teacher directions. It's more like, here's a wonderful free resource for you that is associated with this Alabama course of study standard. The next level up, so the classroom resources are the most basic, and then this next level up is a learning activity. These are the building blocks of lesson plans. If we think of a normal lesson plan, generally has 3 different parts: a before, a during, and after, or like an introduction, a real instructional piece in the middle, and then that after kind of assessment at the end. A learning activity is just going to be one component. So it'll be either a before, a during, or an after activity. These are going to actively engage students in learning a concept or skill. So it is similar to a classroom resource in that it will provide you a digital tool to use. So a link to something online that you can use to teach a particular standard, but it will give more in-depth instructional usage than the classroom resource. So it will give you student objectives. It will give you an assessment strategy, and then it gives a teacher specific directions about how to use this digital tool to teach students the standard. The final one and the most complete one is a lesson plan. And I'm sure we're all familiar with these. But as far as our ALEX lesson plans go, they provide step-by-step guides to utilize an instructional best practices, and they're built upon learning activities. So a learning activity, if you remember, was just one piece, either a before, a during, or an after. A lesson plan is all three of those. So it is going to be a complete lesson from start to finish. It's very turnkey. You find the lesson plan, you read it, all of the resources are there for you, you can teach it. So if you are a teacher who maybe has to turn in your lesson plans to somebody, or you have to publish them, or as was mentioned in our opening section, one of the ways that we can demonstrate that we have taught computer science is by documenting it in our lesson plans. So this is a wonderful place that might reduce your workload as an educator, because all of these are already created for you. So the objectives are there. If you're somebody who has to write those on your board or something along those lines, the objectives are already created. The assessment pieces are already there. And then all of the directions as to what the teacher actually does to teach the lesson are provided as well. So these are some things that may help kind of reduce your workload as a teacher, as all these things kind of get added to our plates as time goes on. These are some things that are already created for you that you don't have to go search for yourself or create yourself. Today, our focus is on the digital literacy and computer science standards, but you'll also find all of these types of resources for the other content areas as well. Since our focus is on the digital literacy and computer science standards, I did want to focus on that for just a moment. And there are several different things that the ALEX website offers in relation to these standards. The first one is the printable PDF document. So if you are someone who likes to print things off, put them in a binder, you like to highlight, you like to annotate. I know some teachers, after they teach the standard, they put the date or the dates that they taught that standard, they actually want to write that down. There is a wonderful printable PDF document there for you. There's also the digital literacy and computer science standards sorted by grade level. And this is also where you will find links to all the associated resources. This is something that Amanda Dykes in that beginning session, she showed this, and I'll show you in just a moment as well, so you know how to find those. There is the crosswalks. So if you've been teaching computer science or technology for a while, you might remember the 2009 technology education standards. So there's a crosswalks document that shows how those 2009 standards correlate to our current digital literacy and computer science standards. So there is a crosswalks document, and I'll show you how to access that as well. The final thing is the unpacked standards, and this is something that was mentioned in that opening session. This is where you can drill down to the specific knowledge, skills, and understanding that are required for each standard. So if you are a teacher who is new to teaching technology, computer science, digital literacy, this will provide you with some valuable background knowledge, give you some examples of what a conditional is, block-based coding, all of those sorts of things that now we're teaching these little young elementary students. It'll give you that background knowledge and the actual skills that we are trying to teach the students. So now I'm going to take some time to I'm going to show this live, show you how to navigate through the website, and also show you some examples of classroom resources, learning activities, and lesson plans. So I'm going to start here with our homepage. And this is what we showed earlier. And I'm going to show over here just how you can locate these different resources and some of the other things that you will find on the ALEX website. So under resources, if you hover over courses of study, you'll see all of the different courses of study that are available. So even if you are not specifically a computer science or technology teacher, you can still utilize this website. But since today this is our focus, I am going to click here. And you'll notice those 4 different topics that I mentioned. This is where they are. So the course of study document is a PDF, the crosswalk, the Unpack standards. And this is something that was mentioned in the introductory session as well, the DLCS companion website. I know some people missed that link. So there's also a link right there. So this is where you will find the standards sorted by grade level. So these will be all of the standards. You'll also see there's the Unpack content right here. So if you wanted to take a look at what the evidence of student attainment is, that is all there. There's also teacher vocabulary, knowledge, skills, and understanding. So this is what that Unpack information looks like, and this is all related to that first kindergarten standard. Something else I wanted to show you was over on the left side. This will show you all of the resources that are available. So for this particular standard, R1, there are 7 different resources available. There are 3 learning activities and 4 classroom resources. So I'm going to click on this just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Under this, you'll see all of the different learning activities. And on this view, you'll see the title and the description. One of the other things I want to pause and take a moment to mention is that a lot of the activities and the lessons and the resources that you'll find on the ALEKS website are cross-curricular. So for example, this one has the DLCS standards. It also incorporates math and ELA. And this is something that was mentioned, how we can get computer science into our lower elementary classrooms or K through 2, K through 3 classrooms, when our focus really is on those foundational math and reading skills. One of the ways we can incorporate computer science is to find ways to get computer science and digital literacy into our content areas. So ALEKS is a great way to do that, and you'll notice a lot of the activities and the resources do incorporate multiple content areas. So that is one way that you can get to the resources. I do want to show you another way. Up here, you'll also see learning activities, lesson plans, unit plans, and classroom resources. So if you know, I am searching for a classroom resource, I could click on this. I could sort by digital literacy. I'm just going to do kindergarten just as an example here, and then display results. If you had something particular in mind, maybe coding or unplugged, you could type it in the keywords, but for right now, I'm just going to leave that blank to show the results. And you'll notice there are 22 kindergarten classroom resources on the ALEKS website that you can use. So that is just another way that you can search through the different resources that are available if you have something more specific in mind. The next thing I'm going to show you an example of is the classroom resource. This particular one is called Tinker Hour of Code Puzzle, and it is related to Dragon Dash. That's the title of it. So this is a classroom resource. And this is the one, this is what I would consider the most basic type of resource on the ALEKS website. So it is going to have a link to the actual digital tool or resource. This particular one is an interactive or game. It's actually, if you've ever used Tinker before, it's a website that students will go to solve different coding puzzles. It gives you an overview here, and then it tells you it's related to this particular 5th grade digital literacy and computer science standard. It also gives you some comments as well about how to use this website. So the classroom resources are the most basic form of our ALEKS resources that are available. It's a link to a resource somewhere on the internet. So it might be a game like this one that the students would play, but it might also be something more unplugged, like a worksheet or an assessment or some sort of unplugged coding activity. It might also be something that the teacher might project on his or her board, like some sort of video clip or something like that. So you'll notice here, there's not a lot of teacher directions about how to use it. It just kind of gives you a summary of what the resource is and how it's connected to this standard. The next level up is a learning activity. So I'm going to click on this one. This one is, as you can probably predict, it's related to social studies as well as our digital literacy and computer science standards. It still has a link to a digital tool, and it also has the overview. But what you'll notice here with this particular activity is that it gives a little more information than the classroom resource. So it has learning objectives associated with it. It gives the teacher, in this section, it gives the teacher specific directions about how to use that digital tool or resource. So if you are looking for something a little bit more than just a link to a resource somewhere on the internet that's associated with our state standards, the activity is the place to go. These are not going to be a complete lesson plan, so they'll generally last a little bit of a shorter time to teach than a lesson plan. Generally 30 minutes to an hour is where most of these are at. But you'll notice this does give a little bit more directions. We have an assessment strategy. It tells the teacher how to prepare to teach this activity to students. And then there's also variation tips and some notes or recommendations at the bottom. The final type of resource I'd like to show you today is our lesson plan. And this is going to be the most complete version of the resources that you will find on ALEKS. So it will be an actual complete lesson plan from start to finish. These are generally a little bit longer than the learning activities. They may last, over an hour. This particular one is predicted to last about an hour and a half to teach. So depending on your schedule, you may have to break it up over 2 days. But you'll notice with a lot of our lesson plans, as I mentioned earlier, they're cross-curricular. So they will incorporate multiple subject areas, which is one of my favorite things about our ALEKS resources. And this one, because it does take a little bit longer to teach, it's a little bit longer time frame, there's multiple digital literacy standards associated as well. So there are learning objectives for the students. And you'll see it gives you a time frame so you can plan using this lesson plan, the materials and resources that are needed, the technology resources that are needed, the background and preparation for the students and the teacher. So what does the teacher need to do to get ready to teach this lesson, and what background knowledge do the students need to have? Then it gives you the before, the during, and the after activity. So that's what makes this just a little bit more in depth and more complete than a learning activity, is it has all 3 components of a lesson plan included. It's going to have formative and summative assessment strategies. Our lesson plans will also give you ideas for enrichment. So if you have a student that was able to complete this activity, this lesson plan very quickly with no issues, they could just do it all independently. There are ideas for acceleration, enrichment, how to continue on for those students who are ready. And for students who maybe struggle a bit, there is also some intervention tips that the teacher can use as well. Before we move into the next part, I do want to pause right here and take a look at our chat box. And if anyone needs to unmute or ask questions about anything we've discussed so far, I would be very happy to answer those right now, but I'm going to just quickly review over our chat here.
So Hannah, Crystal had a question. Other than the link you used, how would we get to Tinker from the ALEKS website?
Okay, so Crystal, that's a great question. A lot of the activities that you will see, there'll be classroom resources on ALEKS. They do utilize Tinker, so you could use that search feature that I showed you earlier, but I can also show you again where you can actually search the word Tinker to see what resources are available related to that. Yeah, and I'm seeing the cross-curricular is good. Yeah, okay, so Jen, you figured it out, yeah, in the search bar. So that's another place I'll kind of show you quickly up here. You can also just do a search, but if you're looking for resources, in this part is where you could type in the keyword Tinker, and it'll pull up the resources that are associated with it.
Thank you, Hannah. I reviewed my emails and was not able to find the link to your session. So just when it's convenient, if you'll share that in the chat. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm going to wrap up in just a couple of minutes. So I'll share it as soon as we get done there.
Thanks.
Oops. So we are about to wrap up. So I know this is kind of lunchtime, so maybe that'll give everybody enough time to grab a snack before our next breakout session. One of the things that you may have noticed is our ALEKS logo, and all the colors are very different than what you see on this presentation. So we are rebranding. We do have a new logo, and we are also updating our website. So all of the resources and everything that we shared today will be migrated over to the new website, but it will have a new look, an updated look, and also hopefully be easier to find all of these resources that we discussed today. That rollout is planned for August. So we can get it going for the new school year so we can have that new website and new look. We are continually adding new resources. That is just an ongoing process for ALEC throughout the year. So in other words, continue to check back because there are new resources added on a weekly basis. We do have social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle on all of those is Teach with ALEC, so you can follow us there. And every Tuesday, we are posting a resource aligned to the digital literacy and computer science standards. So if you are interested in seeing more resources and kind of keeping in touch with all of that, make sure to follow us on social media. Every Tuesday, you will see a new resource posted and it'll have a link directly to that resource. And I've just been doing a variety with different grade levels and different types of resources as well. So that wraps up the presentation for today. I do have my email on the board, and I will also share this presentation as well in our chat in just a moment. There is a QR code there that will take you to the ALEC homepage. So if you didn't get a chance to write down that web address earlier, you can just snap that QR code and go ahead and get it bookmarked. But feel free to email me, and I'm going to stick around as well for anybody who has questions or comments. And I will also share a link to this presentation in the chat box for anyone who may want it.